Well, welcome to Take Two, a podcast where we look at movies a little after their release, months, years, and we look at controversial movies. And not that they're controversial because they're bad, but just certain aspects of them might be controversial at the time they were released, and we just look at them later and see how they've aged. So, today we're talking about Fury 7, the seventh installment of the Fast and Furious franchise, and I'm here with fellow theater buddy Anna Young.
Hello.
Welcome, Anna.
Hello.
So, just to give a little background on this information on the movie. It was released on April 3rd, 2015, a little over 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was directed by James Wan, written by Chris Morgan. It stars The Rock, Vin Diesel, Paul Walker,
Michelle Rodriguez.
Jason Statham is in this
Yeah.
one. Yep. Yeah, and so what was your opinion of this movie at the time of the franchise?
Well, my boyfriend is a humongous fan of the whole Furious series. I hadn't seen any of them before we got together.
Okay.
And then he made me watch all of them.
Nice.
He forced me. It's fine. I look at them now as very fun movies.
Yes.
I don't think they're good movies, but I think they're fun to watch.
Okay. Yeah, so like, what's your opinion of, have you heard of James, so when you go back to when this first came out, so 2015, had you heard of James Wan?
Yeah, so I'm a big horror fan, so
Okay.
I knew of him from The Conjuring. I think The Conjuring came out before this. I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Saw franchise was his. So I was familiar with him from that, and I thought it was weird that he was doing this movie because of his horror history. I think he had literally only done horror films before
Yeah,
this.
and then he came into this one. He might have, I don't think he did another Fast before this.
No, he didn't.
So kind of talking about the stars of the film, because this is where kind of they make their money. To me, this is The Rock's franchise now.
Kind of, yeah. I think they started kind of taking it that direction with Furious 7.
I did too, yeah. I'm not saying Vin Diesel isn't good, but I mean, people really go for The Rock, I think, more than...
And I think Vin Diesel's, I mean, he's done so many of them, and he's been doing it for so long. I think the first one came out in, 2002, I think? Early 2000s. And so he's probably just tired of it, and I think The Rock is the right person to kind of hand it over to. And it's still making so much money that there's no sense in ending the series, right?
It definitely. And
2001 for the first movie. Sorry.
2001.
I was close.
Yeah. And, I mean, yeah, and then recently there's been beef between The Rock but we'll get to that later. So let's talk about this movie at the time. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's 80% from the critics, an average of 6.7 out of 10.
Okay.
82% from the fans.
Okay.
4.1 out of 5, so 82. It had 195 fresh reviews and only 48 rotten. So it's a generally well-liked movie.
I mean, yeah.
For the cinema score, which is, if you go to the movie, you automatically, as soon as you come out, someone hands you a slip, rates it from A+ to F, and there's an A. So it's pretty good. So it's really good.
Yeah.
The Metascore is 67.
Okay, so still fine. Yeah.
And it's on Metacritic, it's 6.8 out of 10 from the users.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say the controversy is really from the movie itself. I feel like it was generally well received in the franchise.
Yeah.
I think at the time I was working in a movie theater, and the big controversy behind this is Paul Walker's death.
Right.
So let's kind of dive in at the time of this movie. What were your thoughts about them? You hearing them, they're still going to do the movie in CGI Paul Walker.
Right. So I was nervous about it, especially at the time. We'd never really seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
You know, with now we've kind of seen it in Star Wars, obviously with Grand Moff Tarkin and Leia being recreated. But that never really been done, especially in a huge movie before.
Yeah.
So I think everyone was kind of like, what? They're going to make Paul Walker?
Yeah.
But I mean, they used his brother, right? So his brother was kind of his body double.
Couple of them.
Yeah, because I think one of his, and his brother is also an actor and stuff, so he came in, and so, I think that was a respectful way to do it, right? To bring in his family to kind of help finish up that role. But I remember being really nervous about it. I was like, oh god, it's going to look like garbage.
Yeah, I remember being also kind of skeptical, like, wait, they're doing what?
Right.
And you don't know, because it's part of you, like, you want the, people, a lot of people, I don't really think about the stars. Like, there's been a lot of people that worked on this that were, the grips, the PAs, the makeup, the special effects, that they spent so much time that you want to see their work rewarded too, not just like the stars. And so yeah, I was I was hesitant. I didn't think it was a really good idea. I was hoping they could like find a way to get out of it. And I remember, like, I think it was just, at the time, I thought this was very almost disrespectful to his legacy, that so soon after his death too, that you're gonna do this movie. And part of it to me kind of seemed like a publicity stunt. They kind of turned it into.
Totally. I think that's how most people felt about it.
Yeah.
And it worked. The movie was insanely successful. I think it was I think for a time it was definitely top 10, right?
Yeah, so
of all time.
Moving into the box office, it did it grossed 147 million opening weekend,
which is huge.
353 million domestic.
Okay.
And 1.5 billion worldwide.
Sure. Big in China, I think. Big in China.
Big in China. Yeah, that was another thing that's kind of the craziness about it, was it did so well, and they kind of, you hate to say it, I don't know if they didn't discourage away. I remember him being very prominent in the trailers too.
Yeah. I don't think they did much to quell people's fears about him, like how they're going to handle him in the movie. People were like, oh man, because they didn't take him out of the trailer at all, and he was still a huge character in the story.
Yeah.
But I think part of the success of the movie is because people wanted to go see it, and then after people initially saw it, they thought, oh, they actually handled this really well, so then way more people started to see it because it was interesting to see how they played out his storyline.
That was my next question, was when you first saw the movie, what did you think? Like, diving a little, like, what did you...
I remember seeing the movie in the theater. I remember the theater being packed. I don't know why I remember this so well, but I do remember, because I remember getting really emotional at the end of the movie. Because it hits you, man. The thing when they're driving down the road and he looks over and they're playing See You Again. It's really emotional. It is, and I thought they did a better job with it than I expected. It was pretty seamlessly done, the scenes, because the only scene where you can really tell that it's CGI is the very end, right, when he drives off in the car. But the rest of the scenes where his brother stepped in and they had body doubles, I actually thought were really well executed. And they did a good job of kind of making it really seamless, and it didn't seem fake, it didn't look cheesy to me. Yeah. And I thought they wrote him off really well and respectfully. Honestly, I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, they definitely, I know the emotional aspect, because I worked in a movie theater when this debuted. So the first time I saw it was an employee screening, and I was never a huge fan.
Sure.
But I did enjoy the film, but again, I was kind of, the last scene, really, because I wasn't really emotional, because I wasn't that invested into the storyline. I mean, I knew it was sad that he died. But I remember vividly when I was working there opening weekend, some guy walked out, and it was like the last showing, and I was cleaning the popper where they make the popcorn, and this guy walks over, and we had the popper near like where no one was. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I kind of like checking around, and all of a sudden he just grabs a handful of napkins and just starts weeping into them. And his buddy had to come over and like take him to the bathroom. Like it's like a grown man. I was like, wow, this definitely, I mean, affected some people. Definitely emotional.
I think that was some of the most sniffles I've ever heard in a theater. Honestly, I remember a lot of sniffles.
For a Fast and Furious
Especially like, why would you ever, but yeah, like grown men, some sniffles at the end of that movie.
Definitely. Yeah, it was, it was an interesting movie at the time. But that was like, that was the big controversy, is it okay? But now, let's flash forward, or let's before we flash forward, what are some the pros about the movie itself, do you think? Like, what are some things that you think this movie did really well?
It has good action. That's what Fast and Furious does best. They do good action scenes. They know how to crash cars, set things on fire, shoot people, do fight scenes. That's what they do the best, and that's pretty consistent through most of the movies.
And then what do you think some of the cons are about this movie?
The plots are always garbage. The storylines are always a mess. There's not really anything meaningful to them at all.
Do you think this one was better or worse than
I think this is one of the best ones. So I've seen all of them, I think, except like the third one.
Okay.
And I think this is probably the best one of all of them. Yeah, I put it at the top.
Nice. The The top of
the top of a low hanging fruit.
Yeah. So now let's flash forward.
Okay.
All right. What are your thoughts now about the movie? Now that you kind of revisit it, and just initial.
I think overall, I'm just kind of meh about the movie. Like, it's not really important to me in any way.
So you don't get as emotional as you did?
No. I think especially the time, because it was just such a big deal. See You Again was, like, the biggest hit in the world. It was, like, the biggest YouTube video of all time. Like, it was a big deal. The song was a big deal.
Yes.
There's a lot of hype around the movie. So I feel like there's just a lot of emotion around it, and now I'm kind of just like, meh.
It did get a Golden Globe nomination for this song.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, surprising.
Thanks, Charlie Puth.
Yeah.
Charlie Puth.
Yeah, my thoughts about watching this now is still not a fan.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it. I think I've part of me, because of the de-aging now that we've seen,
sure,
and the CGI that we've seen in like Rogue One,
sure,
or even like Civil War with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
That
Guardians 2, Kurt Russell.
Guardians 2, Kurt Russell. I think it was actually just makeup.
No, it was de-aging. Yeah.
No, really?
I think it was, yeah.
Dang. Oh.
Really well done de-aging. Yeah.
Dang. But you see that now, so I think my view on that being kind of disrespectful has changed a little.
Sure.
Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah. It doesn't really bother me anymore. I don't know. I think at first it really bothered me, but now I'm kind of like, I get it. I feel like we're at a place where we can do those things a little more respectfully.
Yeah.
It's not like we're making these people look like cartoons. It doesn't bother me to see, Grand Moff Tarkin. They recreated that actor for Rogue One, and it didn't bother me. I didn't feel like it was disrespectful. They did the best job that they could, and I don't think they embarrassed him as an actor or as a performer.
Yeah. Do you think, because Grand Moff Tarkin, the actor,
Peter Cushing?
Peter Cushing,
I think?
Yeah, so...
I'll do research.
Yeah, research real quick. I think what really softened that was the amount of time that had passed.
I'm right, it is Peter Cushing.
It was the amount of time that had passed, though.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
What would be your thoughts if they put Paul Walker in the newest installment coming out, Fast 10? But they're like, hey, Fast 10.
Fast 9.
Fast 9.
We're on 9 now.
Fast 9.
Fast 9. Whatever they call it. The fastest and the most furious.
Yes. What if, for Fast 9, they're like, we really want to bring Paul back? What would your thoughts be on that?
I think that's unnecessary and disrespectful. I think that's where you get to a disrespectful level, where it's like, we're going to bring it back. He's going to be all a fictional character. Like, it's all going to be CGI. This person doesn't exist anymore. We're bringing him back just for the spectacle of it. Because that would be pure spectacle. Because at least for the previous movie, he'd filmed like 80% of his scenes. He'd done most of the film himself before he passed away. And I think it would become disrespectful for them to be like, it would just be a spectacle.
But
like, hey, come see this.
What's the difference between that and Rogue One, where Tarkin had been gone for a while, so it's just spectacle to bring him back, right?
He was necessary for the plot, right? So he did have an actual reason to be in Rogue One for the period that the movie was set in. Mm-hmm. Paul Walker, they wrote him out of the film. There's absolutely no reason for him to be there. They would just be making it happen just to make it happen.
That's a good point, yeah. So how is this movie, looking cinematically now, how is this movie aged? Does it still have the big action? Is the action still hold up?
Yeah. Like I said, I think that's the one thing they do good. They know how to do the action. There's a lot of money pumped into this movie. Mm-hmm. If you watch, actually, we watched Furious 8 recently, and we watched some of the behind the scenes on that. And the behind the scenes are actually incredible. The way that they engineer the cars, the way that they shop for these vehicles, how they make these effects happen. It's really impressive. There's a lot of work put into it. So I think it will age well. I think it will continue to age well as a fun popcorn action movie.
Yeah, I mean, this is only 2015, but
things are changing every day in film.
But this, I think, was, again, those action movies, the big budget ones, definitely do the best action and explosions you can see on screen.
Yep.
So we talked about the praise of it, the action, and we kind of talked about it now. Do you think it's, at the time, every time a Fast and Furious movie, it's, oh my gosh, it's so great. Do you think that's still the case, or do you think that it's like, now that you look back, you're like, okay, I've seen better?
I think most people are able to take the perspective on Fast and Furious movies that they aren't good movies, but you just have fun watching them. Like I said, my boyfriend is a massive fan of the series, but
Yeah.
he does not persist in any way that they're good movies. He doesn't think that. And I think that's generally true for most fans of the series. They never really thought they were good, but they just really have fun watching them. And usually they're people who really like cars, they're passionate about different vehicles, so they like to see cool, fancy cars being driven around in movies.
I gotcha. And we're going to take a little break right now. So we just talked about the pros, like that have kind of held up, the action, all that. So a lot of the criticisms are it's kind of cliche, maybe a little sexist. Do you think those hold up to you? Are those still a factor?
Absolutely. That's my biggest... The sexism is consistently a problem that I have when I watch the movies. You know, from the beginning, I'm like, it really bugs me when they do the races and all these women are in bikinis. The women in the movies are a joke, right? So Michelle Rodriguez's character does have some agency in the movie. She is pretty awesome and badass and holds her own. And Charlize Theron's character in Furious 8 is pretty awesome too, but for the most part, the women in the movie are totally marginalized, and I've always had a problem with that. And I think that people will just continue to have a problem with that. It's not going to get any better.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think those... You gotta take it for its good and its bad, but you think you know what you're getting through all these movies.
You know what you're getting. If you're gonna watch that movie, you need to understand that you're gonna see women in short shorts and sports bras and looking whatever. That's just how it is. That's the type of movie. I don't think that makes it okay, but that's the audience for that movie knows that that's what they're getting when they watch it.
Yeah. So when you rewatch this, is there any parts that like really stand out?
That stand out. Like, just
like,
memorable scenes.
Memorable scenes.
I think, the ending is always going to be what people take away, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be the scene.
You'll always be with me. And you'll always be my brother.
It's, the whole movie, they're all the same. All the Fast and Furious movies are exactly the same, right? So they're all, there's a car chase, someone dies, there's an explosion. It's how it is every movie. But I think people were always going to remember that Paul Walker scene because it's really emotional and it was well done. The scene at the beach where he's playing with his family at the end, that's pretty memorable.
Yeah. So now let's talk about influences now looking at it outside. So don't look at the film, I guess, like if it dated or anything like that, or the performances, or maybe do the performances. But like, let's look at the movie now that one more movie has come, Fast 8.
Yep.
So now that Fast 8's come out and looking kind of...
Is it called Fast 8? What is the actual title?
Fast, it's like F8, as I always see it.
Fate?
Fate. The Fate
Wait,
of
it's
the
Fate
Furious.
and Furious! We did it, guys. We've been calling it the wrong name the whole time.
Yes.
Here we
Fate
are.
of the Furious, Furious 8. And that now 9 is coming out.
Yep.
Have your thoughts on the... Like, after you saw 8, did your thoughts on 7 change at all?
It made me sad that 8 was bad because I was like 7 was really good. I really didn't like 8, so I just watched it a couple weeks ago, not very long ago. I did not like it at all. I was like, nah, this is not.
Yeah. Not
so I was like, why did they do so good with 7 and then totally throw it away with 8?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not a huge fan, so I think they're all but.
I think they're all pretty meh too, but that one I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, and so we kind of addressed this earlier, but also kind of the influencers from outside the film is the relationship with a lot of the actors on set. And we just learned that The Rock and Vin Diesel didn't shoot any of their scenes together.
Okay.
And Fast 8.
Okay.
Which is hard for AD, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And even now, Tyrone has had a lot of frustrations with The Rock, and even now, because The Rock and Jason Statham are doing their own spin-off of Fast and Furious.
Right.
So there's a lot of tension between...
That's interesting, because I would not peg The Rock as someone who would be hard to work with or that people wouldn't like to work with.
Well, I think The Rock's very professional, and he, like... And I heard Vin Diesel's, a little late, doesn't know his name.
I can see that.
So I think that would butt heads with him a lot.
Sure.
So, like, when you look at it now, and you look at these guys, they're supposed to be best friends... And they're not. Does it like take away anything?
Well, they're kind of frenemies in the movies, to be fair. They're kind of frenemies. So they start off as kind of, they hate each other, right? Because The Rock works, I think he's an FBI agent. I'm pretty sure he's an FBI, or CIA or something like that. And he's out to get Dom and then Vin Diesel. But then they kind of become friends.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of works, right? In the plot overall. But I mean, that's complicated in any movie. I think if two actors don't like each other, that just makes the whole shoot a lot more difficult, especially if now they're both going to be kind of co-leads. Because it used to be an all Vin Diesel vehicle. The whole thing was just his thing. So if The Rock is coming in, he's like the biggest star in the world right now. That's sure to make something messy, whether they get along or not.
Yeah, I think what also maybe takes away from it is Vin Diesel and Paul Walker are very close. They've been in it since the beginning.
Yeah, I think Paul Walker's kid is like Vin Diesel's godchild or something. Like they're incredibly close.
Incredibly close. So not only do you lose Paul Walker, but your friend, then all of a sudden this other guy starts taking over your franchise, and you get a little testy. I think it actually adds. It'd make me more likely to go see this movie now. That I'm like, it's incredible that they didn't film any of their scenes together. All right, like cool. Let's. I want to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
I want to see like the tension, and I think it's almost because The Rock does come from WWE. He does a great job of adding the extra flair to the event.
Sure. Yes.
The smack talk, the drama behind it, and I think a lot of people, I mean, like me, are gonna eat that up.
The Rock has more charisma than anybody else in Hollywood. Honestly, dude has charisma out the wazoo.
Yes.
And he will bring that to the Fast and Furious movies. Because the Fast and Furious movies are real cheesy, right? So that's like the perfect thing for him to milk up that cheese, that Baywatch cheese.
That Baywatch cheese.
The Baywatch cheese.
So kind of getting near the end here. Do you think this movie will be remembered as a classic? Do you think it's gonna be kind of forgotten, or somewhere in between?
It's certainly not gonna be a classic, but I don't think it'll be forgotten just because there is a really big fan base for the Fast and Furious series. I mean, it made $1.5 billion, right? So there's always gonna be people who enjoy the series, people who like to have a marathon over the weekend watching these type of movies. I think it'll be the kind of thing that you see it on TNT on a Sunday afternoon. I think that's kind of where it'll land.
Do you think this, and then, so in a broader sense, in the Fast and Furious franchise, where does this movie land?
I think this will be always the best movie. I think this will be considered like the penultimate Fast and Furious movie.
I would agree. I think it's the best one I've seen. And then now I kind of want to discuss if this movie released today. So let's take it as the scenario of that they halted production.
Okay.
And they decided to reshoot the whole movie.
Okay.
They either wrote Paul Walker's character off, or let's say they recast the role.
Okay.
And then finally, because everyone's always busy, they got everyone's production schedules to work, and it's coming out. It came out yesterday, and we just saw it. And it was kind of the same movie, but instead of Paul Walker, it was someone else. What are your thoughts about that? How would you feel?
I don't think it would have been as much of a phenomenon. I don't think it would have been as big of a deal because the Paul Walker thing is what made it blow up, right? So all the Fast and Furious movies have always made a lot of money. Yeah. There's certainly never been a flop, but I don't think it would have been the big deal that it would have been without that. I mean, the newest movie still made a ton of money without any kind of scandal, any kind of weird thing happening. I think it would have been more of like, oh, it's a movie that's out. It wouldn't have really been anything that people super talked about.
Yeah. I would say the anticipation would have been astounding. I would have felt really bad for the person that had to play the other Paul Walker.
I would say even if they did exactly the same movie, if they did CGI Paul Walker, the exact same thing, but it didn't come out until now, it still would be the same. It wouldn't be as big of a deal because it was just the timing of it all. Yeah,
and it was such a new thing, I think, which too. Yeah, I think that'd be great. So, on the scale of, I guess, looking at it from the controversial aspect, do you think the dust has settled on this being, like, okay, we're okay with this?
Yeah, I think people are used to it now. With the technological world we live in, we're just going to see more and more of that in movies. So I think people are accepting it because it was still controversial in Rogue One too.
Yeah.
Just seeing people recreate it, it is jarring. It's the uncanny valley thing, right? Where you can tell it's not quite human. So we're not quite there yet, and people are always going to have comments about it. I think until we get there, until we are able to digitally create a person, people are going to have comments about it. But I think it's less of a big deal now than it used to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think like now that this is definitely one where everyone's kind of fallen on the side of like, well, okay, it's fine now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I remember being very heated and people being very passionate about it. But like you said, I think John Wayne's gonna star in a movie in like 5 years or something. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. So, any final thoughts on Fast 7 now or at the time, or you watched it, or?
I'm very meh about the movies. They're fun. If you want a good fun popcorn movie, it's a good one to see.
Yeah, still a good one to see.
Still a good one to see if you just want to have a mindless movie.
All right. Do you recommend? You can just jump into this one without knowing really any. Like if you didn't.
There's actually like a weird. It's like a soap opera, right? So you can like kind of jump in and still. You're gonna have fun because it's about the action, right? You're gonna be able to enjoy it, but you're gonna be a little confused. You might be a little confused.
Well, that ends our talk on Fast 7 or Furious 7 and the little controversy surrounding Paul Walker's appearance in the film. Would you like to plug anything?
Check out Theater Buddies on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's just Theater Buddies. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter with the same thing, Theater Buddies.
Would you like to promote yourself, where people can find you?
I'm Anna Young. You can find me on Facebook. I think Instagram, I'm Anna_the_young25. Follow me. Thank you.
And then, anything you'd like to plug? So, like, just out there, any good movie or any TV show you're watching?
I'm super excited for Westworld to come on. As Westworld comes back in like 2 weeks. Currently on Netflix, I'm really into Ugly Delicious, which is a food documentary show. Super recommend it. It surprised me and I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, I'm AJ Turek. You can find me at Theater Buddies too, like Anna said. So, thank you for listening if you made it this far, and have a good night, morning, or evening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.